Do you have an inner critic who's bossing you around and you're like, stop? Or maybe you don't even notice. The thing is a lot of ADHD women entrepreneurs became entrepreneurs or are becoming one because you want to get away from having a boss, someone telling you what to do all the time and criticizing you. And yet, a lot of ADHD women entrepreneurs continue to boss themselves around instead of talking to themselves like a leader. I want to break down how this happens and what to do instead, because the days of bossing are over and need to be over for you to do well in your business with ADHD. A lot of us get into this because growing up, we either experienced criticism, correction, and negative commentary for our ADHD, whether diagnosed or recognized or not, or we saw other people be criticized for things that would be our natural way of being if we didn't mask. And a lot of us adopted perfectionism and people pleasing as a way to protect ourselves from all of that. The problem is as we get older, we get tired and it gets hard to continue masking that way, nor is it really in alignment with who we fully are. That's why it doesn't work to have a boss anymore because you're sick and tired of being told what to do. You're sick and tired of having to put yourself in this little box and just to not get criticized and to do the right thing. But being an entrepreneur is about freedom. It's getting to choose how to work and when to work and how to be paid and how much to be paid and all of those wonderful things. But you're not going to have that freedom if you allow this inner critic to keep bossing you around. This inner critic who probably has the voice of grown-ups throughout your life, whether when you were a kid and it was a teacher or multiple teachers, a principal, parents, neighbors who had what they had to say about your ADHD, or whether it's from your life now and people commenting on how long it takes you to do something or how you show up in the world. I'm going to tell you right now, I masked through overfunctioning and high achievement, and a lot of people who mask that way don't think that they were exposed to criticism. And maybe you weren't, like it's possible. But chances are, even if you masked super well through overfunctioning and people pleasing and perfectionism and thus overachievement, chances are your ADHD still popped out. Mine did in ways of talking too much in class, having a hard time waiting my turn for what to get my turn to speak. Also, my locker and bedroom were always a mess. So I definitely got plenty of feedback, which was really criticism about that. And so a lot of us, I suspect I'm not alone, a lot of us took in those inner critics to try and keep ourselves on track so as to avoid getting in trouble in the future. And the problem is if you still have your inner critic there running the show, entrepreneurship is going to be hard for you. It's going to suck. It's going to feel like a job. Instead, it's time to step into a self leadership role for yourself and your business. What do I mean by that? Many of you know I'm level 2 trained in internal family systems, also known as IFS. And we talk about self leadership. Self energy, the self with a capital S, maybe your inner wise woman, whatever you consider it, is the you that is always there. It's your consciousness. Some may consider it the drop of universal consciousness that resides in you. In yoga, we call it the Atman. Whatever you call it, it's that presence you feel in stillness. Whether you're in nature, whether you pause to notice your breath, whether you're hugging a tree, I guess that's nature, or perhaps after Shavasana in a yoga class. Those are moments when you most likely have felt that self energy, that self with a capital S. And here's the thing, your self, your highest self, knows what to do. But if you lead from your bossy part, your critical part, you're going to feel shame all the time. You're going to feel bad. You're going to feel like a failure when you make a mistake. Instead, you can lead from a place of your highest self. What does that look like? When things aren't going the way you intended, when you have big feelings, when you make a mistake, you lean in with curiosity and compassion to understand what's going on for the different parts of you, to really get clear on what's happening, how it's hard, and yourself can bring clarity about what to do about it. But it requires that you slow down and you allow yourself to tune in to that wisdom that is just below the surface. And for some, especially if you have a complex trauma history, when I say just below the surface, it might be below many, many parts who are protecting you from all of the crap you went through growing up, from all of the abuse and the hurt and the pain. But even if you don't have a complex trauma history, you likely also have parts, at least an inner critic, protecting you from being criticized and corrected the way that you were or afraid you could be if you didn't mask your ADHD. So now, instead of bossing yourself around from the inner critic, I encourage you to let yourself slow down. When you hear that inner critic, see if you can lean in with curiosity and say, I hear you. What's going on? You sound really concerned. And chances are that critic's gonna be like, yeah, because if we do this, blah, 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 like all these things that would happen that would be bad. That critic's trying to protect you. And you won't know what that's about till you lean in with curiosity and compassion and try and understand what's going on. And from that grounded presence, you will have clarity on what it is you need to do. If you're like, Jen, I've never had that experience of self energy. If you've got complex trauma, probably you're going to need to do some work there, resolving it. My favorite is trauma centered, trauma sensitive yoga, something I'm certified in. I like that because it is very intentional about choice making and invitational language and non coercion, among other things, to help trauma survivors be able to hear their inner voice, to build their interoception, to be able to have a sense of agency to make choice. So that's my favorite way to build that if you have a complex trauma history. Not that there's not other wonderful ways as well, including working with someone who's trained in IFS like I am. Also, if you don't have a complex trauma history and you're like, I've never felt this, then perhaps see if you could go be in nature. Let yourself take in the trees. Let yourself take in the water if it's there, or mountains, or the flora, fauna, wherever you are. Let yourself be in the quiet stillness. Maybe stand outside when it's snowing. There tends to be more of a quietness about the world in those moments. Let yourself just be. And as you do that more and more, you will start to hear that inner voice. You just have to make space for it because I guarantee it's there. And in the meantime, you might be able to lead from a place of your getting on with day-to-day life part. There's a part of you that manages your life and helps you do the stuff you need to do every day. And so sometimes you can lead from that place. And instead of shaming yourself or criticizing yourself or what were you thinking or any of that kind of negative self-talk, which is really ineffective at getting ourselves to do stuff and just puts you in a shame spiral, which then shuts you down and it's the whole thing, right? Instead, from that getting on with day-to-day life part, you can try and lean in and get curious and understand what's going on for you. As you do that, you can talk to yourself from a place of leadership, from a place of coaching yourself. Leaders don't shame people. True leaders don't shame people. True leaders don't belittle people. True leaders build up people. They lean in and get curious. They understand what the challenge is and they ask really good questions. They get curious. They have compassion to help you be able to do what you need to do. You have that leader within. And so it's time that you slow down and let yourself tap into it. If you're not following already or subscribed, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button. Share in the comments what resonates for you about this or anything that comes up. All right, I'll see you next time. Take care.